Okay guys, welcome back to another Assetto Corsa setup video. In today's video I'm going to be looking at the McLaren 650S Gt3 around Spa. So I've managed to get this, seems still to be the car that you really do want to run with on the PS4, although we're going to be waiting for the Ferrari DLC to come in January, which will bring the Ferrari GT3, which going by on the PC it should be very close to the 650S, if not faster than the 650S, so that should be interesting to see if it can keep up with this car. But we're going to run through the lap and the setup now, and you'll see why this car is still the car to beat. So we're going to start our lap now. We're going to start our lap nice and clean, exit from the last corner, running traction control on the weakest setting, although it shows on this is from the replay. I've taken this footage and it says it's on 1 there, which it wasn't, because it was actually on 12, and I'm going to tell you what to do now. We run the weakest setting now, and as we come out of this corner now, we're going to leave it in 12, and just as we get on the power there, we're going to take it off, and this is basically required to get through a Rouge at maximum speed in a similar way that we did with the Nissan GTR. So we're taking it off now and running no traction control through a Rouge, taking it flat out in 6th gear, no lifting at all in the McLaren 650S. And then as we're going to wait before we get through this little corner now. I know it's only a very little corner, but I'm going to turn it back onto the weakest setting, 12 now. Coming into the braking zone, we're going to brake just before the curbs on the left, making sure we brake just in time to get down into 3rd gear and hit that apex nicely. Get on the power nice and early there, just a quick squirt, and then back off, and then on the power, and then push the power all the way through this corner now. Just be careful not to run wide there. We nearly ran wide. Going into 5th gear briefly before we go back down to 3rd gear, and then 2nd gear just to hold that line nicely now. Then on the power nice and early into 3rd gear, into 4th gear, then back down to 3rd gear. We just skimmed the curb, maybe could have took that a little bit better, running a little bit over the curb on the right, lost maybe a 10th maybe there. Going into 5th gear, then 6th gear, then back down to 4th gear for the really fast left-hander. Now we're going to want to get on the power as early as you can through this corner. With this setup you should be able to do it pretty easily. Going into 6th gear now before we brake, just before the curb again, going down to 4th gear, then 3rd gear, trying to hold nice tight line, squirting the power just very gently, and then getting it in nice and early into that curb there so we can get on the power as early as we can. Going into 4th gear, then back down to 3rd gear, braking just before the curb, and then just be careful on the throttle there. We don't want to run too far wide or you will run into that gravel. We slightly missed the apex of that corner there and compromised how early we could get on the power. I think that maybe lost me a 10th or 2 coming down this straight. Other than that, the lap has been a pretty good lap. So I think the ultimate lap on this lap would be a 17.5, but I think a 17.8 is pretty good for this car around this track. So we're going to look for a braking zone again just after the whiteboard with this car. You can brake a little bit later than with the Nissan, going down into 1st gear and getting on that power as early as we can. So much traction with the 650S now, you can go into 1st gear and put the power down nice and hard, especially with the weakest traction control setting. So we're going to have a little look at the setup that we ran now. As you can see there, lap time on the dash 2 minutes 17.879. So we're going to go into the setup and have a little look at what we're running there now. So you can see now we're going to go through to the general, and we're going to run brake bias on 69. You can go up to 69.5 if it's just a little bit too rear happy. I like it onto 69. It feels nice on 69, but you know, if you're getting a bit of oversteer on braking, just up that slightly. Downforce 0.5 felt really nice. Now on with the differential, we lowered the deceleration differential down to 45 from 50 from our old setup, just to give a little bit more turning with the understeer that builds up now. It really does help him with the turning. Running the power still on 10 and the weakest traction control setting, the best way to do it, especially through that last sector when the tyres start heating up slightly. It just gives you a little bit of grip. Up the tyre pressures up by 1 on each one, just to counter up the extra tyre heat built up from obviously running with the extra understeer. Slightly adjusted the cambers also, and we've slightly adjusted the toe angle on the front to give us more turning as well, to counter that understeer that's created. I think we lowered the spring settings down slightly just to give us a bit more front end grip compared to the old one, and anti-roll bar has been up slightly from the old setup just to give us an all-round more grip on the front end, basically just to counteract the understeer created from the latest update. So you can see there the setup runs really well. What I'm going to do now is, as usual guys, I'm going to leave you with the replay camera from the TV cameras, and after I've put the replay camera on, I've also put in there the chase camera for anyone that wants to have a look at that view, just so you guys can see how the lap was run from that view. This setup should be pretty dominant online, I think, once you got the grasp of it. Don't be scared to run more traction control if you're struggling with any sort of traction loss. The setup will still run reasonably well. I tested it out on many different settings. I preferred the weaker setting. You can run it off as well. It'll just be, you just have to be a bit more careful coming out of the first corner. Just be a bit more careful on the throttle, but it should still get you a very good lap time in the low 18s. You can run it on level 8, 9, 10 and it still will run well and still get in the 18s, so don't be afraid to play with it if you're struggling at all with traction anywhere. Anyway guys, I hope it's helped you out. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and thanks again for watching guys. I'll be back very shortly with more videos.